Hello, this is Rod Mastard. This application has been on developing as fast as I can. Okay, and with that, documentation doesn't come really easy because of all the various versions. For instance, those old pagers, those beepers, and then it became an alpha pager. How many times you see those, but it's still in my code. Emailing at one time was like to Outlook. Things change, and so instead of getting rid of everything, we continue to add. Some people want to look at this screen this way, and others have the VoIP inputting calls coming in, showing up, taking half the space. And so those that don't, we look at more of a generic. And for configuring and showing you around, I've created, and I have this about page, some disclaimer, but basically your name and some other stuff like starting the calendar, outside syncing the date, and for show and tell a test version here so I can kind of show VoIP and my main screen we're looking at, but there's also one with a red button. And there's also the multi-screen, which got the incoming calls on it. By default, you're the main screen, but I want to show you around how other things work. And then this red button now when we enter into it, how it reacts and so forth. And so this is all by show and tell to some extent, and writing a documentation on this or that gets really difficult. So let me step back into the admin section and just kind of look here. This is pretty simple. We set up an account. Basically, we do that first, and then we add clients, special clients. But by default, setting up a client, you have a client office client that you can take and this is all pretty generic, but we start getting a little bit more complicated when we start getting into the system and the configuration, because everybody's a little bit different. Well, this is how do we set up the VoIP. This is your name, and this is where we set up the time so that there's a difference between the answering service and the client who might be several states away in a different time zone. Here's where we clip and copy and paste your logo in. We have a setup for faxing. Well, I have a fax server that serves all your workstations. Most people don't want to add the hardware, and faxing is kind of becoming obsolete unless you live in some little town that they want to do it the old-fashioned way. Along with my fax server, I developed an email server that serves emails, even though emails quite quickly anyway. Rather have used the email server than stepping it through Outlook or some other type of email process. And then things got better, and we keep adding. So there's different ways why this is my main route, but there's also different ways to send out texting either through a client server or through email. And so there's a lot of switches here that gets confusing writing documentation on. For instance, and the MM script, well, that's another application we turn on and turn off. But look here down, I've got all these miscellaneous switches so that I could show you one way so you can play and show and tell, and then I could flip this switch so then I could force you into holding 90 days with the messages. But if I say no, then I'm saying you could purge them all to zero, and so that's good for playing around. We want to clean up our act, get rid of everything, but not necessarily to keep everything 90 days by default. And then I could explain each one of these coming down, and I set up each one a little bit different. Then I default think that be your way, but there's other people that say, well, can you do this? Can you do that? And so I've added certain situations. The calendar is another thing that is another complete linked application running with this application, all driven by FileMaker. So it makes it a little bit more complicated. You don't have to have that. We always show all the events anyways in this application I've created. Calendar is a complete, very sophisticated, advancing calendar that each client can have their own calendar. Showing you even more, stepping up into how we update ourselves. Well, you surely don't want to update a full 60 megabytes and lose all your data. We got to have a way to bring your data across into the new version. So we have this whole process here that I have a complete video on. And then there's been other options which we haven't used before, is setting up billing on a quarterly kind of it's called rental versus buy. Well, it costs more money to rent, and then of course you're going to want to buy once you get familiar with my application, because it's not that difficult. So I've set up timeouts so that I can facilitate your needs and help you get involved without spending your money first. So I kind of like work for nothing all the time, and so I have to set some timers according to what works for you. And then further down, converting older FileMaker newest versions, so it's the engine that keeps advancing and giving us more options to do quicker things or other things like this WebDirect 1.0 version. A little bit of a problem, 1.0, so I'm really waiting for the next version before we step in and change things. To show you in configuring all the different options, I have another way in my own world. And it's not shown in your world. It's all these switches. How to, and lot notes. So it's all there. It's all these switches that I can configure. This application can kind of do different things. You know, so demo, I give you this, but limit you that. I might give you that MC Remote, a complete CMR application that's not even, but linked, just like the calendar. And it has its own calendar, so that's 3 different programs going, plus the 4th being this application. So, and limiting to users and not limiting and give you so much of this and that, because I spent a lot of time in massaging this program. But essentially, some of these are just duplicates all in one place that are on other menus. So notes for setting up my VoIP and also some duplications. But this is all very important, all in one place. And I can configure your application to do just about anything. And then all the switches could be custom to your situation. And so I have a complete back-end application that manages your custom named application. Okay, and so there's a lot of ifs and how we're going to set this program up. But what I've created for us is basically a smart application that's pretty standard, and the main menu, and then we can go into an account menu, and that's account screen. That's a second of 3 screens. And then if we look at any message out there, that's a message. And so there's 3 different screens, but they're different names and different messages, and they essentially can do a little bit more, especially getting down and making a message an active function, like an alarm message that reminds you to come back and do something at a certain time. But all roads lead to either or. I can click on any one of these, all active messages for all accounts, where when I go into an account, I have the same tabs across the same. When I click on them, it doesn't change the screen. It's just a tab function that gives this part a different look. And so if there's any active messages out there, I can click on that message and it goes to the same, that 3rd screen, the message screen, back to the account. And this is where we have the clients list out there. But if I click from the main screen, I can go to the account, or I can go right straight to a message, and it's all the same. Here I go right straight to a clean blank message. All I have to do is fill in the from field. Okay, but you're not getting lost in all kinds of different screens. You just learn the basic 1, 2, 3 screens, and then there's a few other screens in between. When I go into an account, I can modify the client, and that's the client screen. So by generic, a client is nothing set up, but like an Office client is. But we can set up a client to do a bunch of different ways that handles or delivers the message. And so I can step through each one of these options and tell you, but this is just a quick demonstration about getting around. Okay, and when I click on these buttons here, I have options to see a few other screens. One is a phone book. Okay. First time loading, I see the phone book. Okay, close that. Another thing I see is a different screen is I have actions. This is like everything you want to add into the actions. And the other thing that I have, and I wanted to show you actions again, going the same way, maybe going a little fast for you, but there's actions with different things filled in. And when I click the account or the main or the message, I go to one of those three screens. Everything leads back to a message or an account or a screen. And so from the main menu, we sit there, we wait, what are we going to do? And we're going to take a message. We enter in an account, alphabetical order, or we can enter in the account number here and go to the message or to the client's account where you choose who you want to take a message for. So if I take a message for Office, it doesn't mean I can't change that message to go to Rod or to Sally, or send a message out to Sally by an email and come back to the message and change the message to Rod and send it again the same email. Or we can set up a grouping process and sending out messages different ways, alpha digital paging, texting, or paging to PageMaster, a beeper program, or faxing it to a fax, a real fax, a local line with a modem in it that most people don't have set up. So we step you into the program because email and texting is easy. I take a message, and after I sit here so long, I'm forced into putting something in here, so I put in somebody's name. Okay, that's a message because something's in the from field. And so once I take a message, it's taken, saved everything. Now what do I want to do with it? I can leave, go back to the account main, or I can go to them and create a method and put it on hold. And so now it's sitting here waiting for us to do something, or there's an alarm out there to do something. There's another different screen too. But primarily we're taking messages, going to the account, choosing who we want to take a message for, and returning back to the main screen. Okay. So there's a lot of different setup functions of way things are done, and I'm not a tech writer. I've got 25 videos out there. Each video has a particular subject, and I'm getting better at videos. But it's all about putting on pause, watching the video, step through my application because it's the same program I'm looking at as the videos are, at least the newer videos. You get into those older videos and then the screens don't look the same, so you can't put it on pause and follow along. And so you can log on to my computer and through Join Me, and I'll drive, show you my application, and we can talk about, or I would rather log on to your computer and look at my application or your application and tell you, you click over here on the right hand side where it says Office button and we're there. It's not like you're over here on some account looking around and I'm saying click on the right hand side for Office button. It doesn't exist. We're not synced. It makes it really difficult to communicate. And some of the reasons why I've created colors. So I click on the tab, which one? All alerts. Well, I'm going by memory sometimes because I'm just talking to you on the phone, even though I wrote it. So click on all the alerts. There are none. Oh, no. Oh, there's Office status on that particular account. Why? It's because there's a W in here on Office status. Or if there's something in here on alarms, when I come into the Mastar screen, it's going to interrupt with a beep to remind me there's an alarm on something or get rid of the alarm. So manipulating around messages left, right, up, and down. There's that same screen. It's got the action and the phone book I was showing you before. Here's how we can deliver a message. And don't forget, up here at the top, what's also important are these quick keys. Control 1, you heard that one enough times right down here. That's how we set up this client to be delivered when we do it. Control 1, it delivers a preset, some manual functions, all preset up, how, text out, no, main, no, and some other things that aren't pertinent because this has not been set up for some other things. And some other things up here in the scripts. of doing a control 2 or control 4 or some other things. And so we're really customizable. And so I see that sometimes there's something that this program doesn't do, and I'm here to make it do it for you. But the other guy doesn't want to do it that way. He wants to stay the same old way he's been doing it all this time. But I'm trying to make it work for you too. And so there's another option to add. And over a period of time and more time, I've ended up with all these options because I've been in this business for 30 years. And I know a lot of things that you want to do, and I've made them happen for you. Oh my God, my DOS application you would have loved, but it was a nightmare. This application is sweet. It runs really well. I follow the FileMaker rules. We can have multiple workstations, cloud-based workstations. I mean, we can just about do anything. And then the new version of FileMaker, which is the version if you buy FileMaker, FileMaker 13's got some really great things coming. And so evolving, making things better. It's awful hard to write documentation. So if you would like to write some documentation for me, let me know and we'll work some things out. So you have a great day. Thank you for all the time and your patience. And all those videos are to help you get around and understand things. And by having a good connection, remote software communication, I could see what you need or how you're trying to explain something to me versus maybe in my terms. And I could work with you and you work with me. So I'm here for your suggestions. I don't mean to batter anybody. I'm pretty set in my ways of how I want you to step into and learning this program because I've been there before. And obviously you don't know the program, so it's a little frustrating sometimes because I've allowed people to get into my demos and have the full version without you actually getting involved first. And you look at other big company software, many engineers, many people testing, sales testing, and trying to make a product. I put a lot of time into this application, role playing, testing. It works great. And plus the fact I ran this application for 10 years and never, ever had a crash, lost my data, had a problem updating, a problem advancing. It just was like a little bunny. It ran and ran and ran, and that's the reason why I can sleep at night. So I thank you very much for your 18 minutes checking out this option technical writing situation with what's happening for now. I surely do want to get documentation together sometime. You have a great day.